Welcome back to another Value Bites episode. We are so excited to have Steve join us today to talk about how to get out of that rut of business owner dependency, of having processes that you're always getting in the way of because you really shouldn't be working on those processes in the first place. So Steve, before we dive in too much, tell business owners who are listening and other business advisors what you guys do over there and how you help business owners.
Yeah, I'm happy to go into how we actually engage with clients, our whole structure model and things. But I think what I want to mention first is some stats that I'm sure you're aware of. Part of the reason why we're on this mission of helping business owners create valuable companies that are sellable is 3 out of 4 businesses that go to sell don't sell. And anywhere between 70 and 90% of a business owner's wealth is tied up in their business. And that's what sent us down this path of really trying to partner with business owners, helping them create that valuable asset that they can sell, and they can actually realize some cash of their hard work over several decades of growing something. It's a bummer to see business owners say, all right, I'm ready to sell my business, and if they do sell it, it's not enough. And the stats are just against that whole thing. So we've developed a 1 year engagement process where we're working in 90-day sprints. So each sprint has a 2-hour review, and then in between, we're meeting with our clients on a weekly basis to work on incremental changes within the business that work towards bringing the business owner out of the day to day and really helping them create an asset, a true asset that gives them freedom of time, freedom of money, and allows them to work in the business when they want to, not because they have to. But
It really shows how much in depth you can go with your clients and how there's such a variety of how you can help them. I want to ask, so there's so many different approaches I feel like that you can take with business owners, but I really want to ask, what are some key strategies to really dive in that owners can implement to reduce dependency on a day-to-day operations basis? How can they create a more self-sustaining business model from your experience?
yeah, it's from my experience, the clients that we work with, it can be a slow grind sometimes.
For
But
sure.
it's really working with the business owner from our perspective on what we see as the intangible components of a business. So we've developed what I refer to as S3P framework, which is just referring to strategy, performance, process, and people. So being able to have the right systems and processes in place and not have everything staying in the owner's head. And I think the second component that a lot of business owners miss here is having this be trainable. It's not enough, especially this day and age, to have things written down on a Word document of this is how our sales process works. The world of I someone told me this stat the other day. I don't know how true it is, but humans' attention span is lower than a goldfish now, thanks to all the social media that we have going on and just all those quick snippets of information. So being able to understand, hey, can we make these systems and processes in a format where people are engaged to go through the content? So we use video in a lot of these cases, so to create how-tos for roles and responsibilities. Really just getting organized with how the business operates, whether that's on the individual level of how the company is run, but being able to systematically prioritize what are the hats the business owner is wearing and how can we delegate to the right people and have a trainable process that they can execute without the back and forth with the business owner in a lot of cases of businesses that we're working with.
It's funny you mentioned the attention span and the training aspect. And, it used to be that even smaller businesses had someone on staff that was in charge of documenting processes and doing training. And so much of that, I think around like 2008, it was like, oh, wait, user generated content is a thing. And we can just give people these like wikis and they'll figure it out on their own. And so as we have, as a society, have experienced this like decline in our attention and focus and ability to use those tools, they've become the primary source of knowledge within businesses. And it's like completely flipped upside down. But I love the idea of using video. We do that quite a bit. We've fallen in love with vid guides. I don't know if you've looked at that, but yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's such a cool tool. But being able to give people that help, the instruction in the right place at the right time, just makes such a big difference. And I could talk all day about, I am a former technical writer, so you don't want me to start
There you go.
speaking out on all that stuff, but kind of shifting back into that business owner and what they're doing to get themselves out of the business and out of those operations. What are some of the critical steps that owners need to take to achieve that, right? To get themselves out of those day-to-day things that are really wasting their time and probably slowing things down within the organization. And then what's an example of what life for that business owner looks like after they've taken some of those steps?
That's the key question right there. What does that life look like? I think what I want to bring up here is more around the people side of businesses. And one of the bigger steps that an owner can take is just understanding right seats, right people, right seats, right? I think that was the Covey that brought that up. When I was in change management, one of the things we used to say is, you can have the best, most flawless system or process in place ever created, but if you don't have the right people to execute that process, it doesn't matter, right? So and another one of my favorite quotes is, business would be easy if it wasn't for the people involved, right? Which, that's its own other thing. But anyway, where we focus on helping owners really understand and create that asset is getting the right people in place. And I think one of the examples I can talk about there is, it happened very recently. One of my agency clients was struggling. We did a whole organizational change, like how particular processes are actually executing the technology. We did a technology integration, and this one person who was actually ended up being one of the first hires at this company just was completely resistant to the change and doing the job differently. We worked with this person, tried to coach her along and get her to be working, but eventually, we all came to the realization it just wasn't the right fit anymore. It was putting stress on the other team members, which really reduced the cultural component of a business, of her business particularly. So we ended up letting this person go, and just over the last few months after that, we've seen capacity increase, we've seen morale increase. So it's really helping the business owner have trust in the right people, make sure that they're in the right seats, executing the right job, and they're really enjoying what they're doing. I think one of the bigger stressors that I see with our clients is the people part. It's are they doing the job that they want to do? Are they doing it to the right degree? Is everyone happy in their role? So it's if you have that trust with your people, I think a lot of the stress of being an owner goes, not all of it, but a lot of it can go away. And then that allows you to, with proper delegation and those types of things in place, allows the owner to have the freedom of time while still collecting a good paycheck. So freedom of money as well, to do what they want to do when they want to do it. And that's our ultimate goal for our clients, is really getting them in that position of power where they have control over their life again. That's what we all get into business ownership for, is being able to do what we want to do when we want to do it. And if you're building a business that is super dependent on you with the wrong people in the wrong places, it's a hard thing to achieve.
So I think, you really captured a lot of components in there. And one is, if you have the right people, but they're in the wrong seats, right? Or you have the right seats, but you don't have the right people, there's all different people problems that you can experience. And so, once you have done that due diligence to really figure that out and begin to build the trust, the next phase is to absolutely start to figure out how can you offload some of those tasks that maybe you're handling as the owner that you shouldn't be. And, you got to have trust in the people, because it's hard, right? Like, I know I speak for myself as an owner. And I know Heather and I talk about this all the time. It's really hard to let something go. And there's so many different reasons. We were at one of the summits we were at last week, and one of the segments they were talking about when it comes to delegation and getting owner dependency out, at the end of the day, it really comes down to fear, like fear of whatever. And I think that that is kind of that first layer of how can you eliminate the fear, begin to trust your people. But then the hard part, how do you actually determine what you should offload? So what are some ways that you feel like owners can identify areas of their operations that, hey, they need to keep this in? It is in the best interest of the company for me as the owner to have that direct involvement. And then, you know what, these are the top tasks that I can delegate, or fan favorite, I can automate. We love automation over here at Value Building Marketing. But how is it that how can an owner really step back and kind of create those tiers of what I keep, what I automate, what I delegate? What does that look like from your perspective?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because it's something that, myself, I struggle with understanding how to prioritize what gets taken off my plate when, right? And that's something we definitely work with our owners on, and helping to prioritize uh, what should we be offloading first. We have assessments, and we have workshop or worksheets and other things that we can work through to help understand what those are. But I think the one of the first questions we ask when it comes to prioritizing which hats to offload, if you will, what gives the business owner the most frustration or stress? And alternatively, what do they love doing in their business? We want them to enjoy working in their business as much as working on their business. So we want to make sure, if we are taking tasks away, they're the right tasks that actually alleviate those frustrations.
Right.
For a lot of, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, I love the simplicity of, like, okay, if nothing else, start by saying, what do you like doing? And what do you not like doing, right? Because there's probably some things you like doing that you shouldn't. But if you're trying to figure out, but if you're trying to figure out, like, where do you start, there's some low hanging fruit of, like, right out of the gate, that admin work or that contract work or whatever it is, that it is the antithesis of really getting you going and getting that momentum going. There's probably some tasks just right out the gate that you can be like, well, I'd be glad to get those off my plate.
Yeah.
So I'm actually personally feeling a little inspired now. I'm like, okay, I need to make my list of what can I offload currently, because I haven't done that in a while. So it's good motivation.
Yeah, it's good. Our goal is, of course, to have business owners be more working on their business. So we do term that, being the architect of their business. So really building the infrastructure of the company. That's where we want them to be. Being part of the visionary component as well. But that can be way down the line, right? So we have to be able to understand what should be taking off, what is actually. I think there's another methodology you can do, like $10 task, $50 task, $100 task, and say, take the ones that are low value to you and where you need to be spending your time as the business owner, and start with those first too. So it can look different for different business owners and different companies, and depending on where they are. But we want them to, again, enjoy working in their business, but also focus on the infrastructure component too.
Yeah. I personally have started. So I recently reread Who Not How, because Dr. Hardy was our keynote speaker at the summit last year, or last week. And so I decided, like, it's time to get back into that frame of reference. And I've found myself, every time that I get an email that's something that I, like, roll my eyes at or feel stressed about, I just document how I've done it and then assign it to someone else to do forever forward. And it's been so like simple but liberating just to say anything that I feel even the slightest bit of stress or animosity about having to be in charge of, I'm just giving it away to someone else.
Yeah.
And, people on our team, they know they have the autonomy to then turn around and give that to the proper person. If I've misdelegated or said, here, you take this off my plate, but they don't really feel comfortable, they know they can re-escalate that to someone else. And I think that kind of plays into the culture that we've built. We have a very small team, but we're all very collaborative and open, and there's no hard and fast rules around exactly what someone's allowed to do and not allowed to do in a lot of ways. We want everybody to be very entrepreneurial in their role. And so what have you found that, the company culture or just the way that you structure those expectations within the company, how does that play into reducing that owner dependency issue and getting people where they do feel like they have the autonomy to make decisions and take things and run with them when they need to?
Yeah, I think you hit on a lot of really good points there. But I think one of things I want to bring up is what I've been writing about for a long time, what I refer to as employee ownership mentality, and really being able to foster a culture, an environment that facilitates this way of thinking. You are, as an employee, you have ownership over your role. You have ownership of what you're able to do. There's a structural way to be thinking about delegation. It's the 4 degrees of delegation, essentially saying, um, I'll instruct you and then you do it. And then it's you go do the research. It's a linear system, right? So the two is being able to say, hey, you go research a solution, then come to me, and then I'll make the final decision on what we're going to do. Next one is you go do it, but report back to me on the results. And then the last one is just go do it. And it's the system that you can work with your team on doing this. But that coupled with really being able to take the mentality of a servant leader, which is a great term that has been thrown around recently, is you become a facilitator of growth. You become a facilitator of your company and helping your people execute better and really work on growing. Yet it takes like going back to the right person in the right seat. It takes someone that really wants that too.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone just wants to come in, here's your task, go do your task, clock in, clock out. In small business, that there might be a place for that, but it's hard to really be able to have a company grow. And if you want your company to grow and scale, you need your people to have the autonomy to do the job that they're meant to do. Some of my faster growing clients do that very, very well. They're very good at delegating. They're very good at helping their employees take ownership of their role and work on their own performance. They are the facilitator of that person, right? So that's one of the bigger cultural components we talk about here. It's take the mentality of servant leadership, foster employee ownership mentality, and don't just jump to level 4 of if we're talking about the 4 degrees of delegation, it's go through the progression with them to make sure that it's being done in a good way. So
I am so stoked to just kind of have all of the various insights that you have. I feel like there's some really actionable things that we as business owners can really take into heart and put into action to help decrease that owner dependency just right out of the gate. Some really simple, quick wins. But then there's also obviously some of the work that has to be done, right? If there is the need for a culture shift or really changing your own leadership style to be more adaptable to the growth that you actually want to see in your business. So really excited to share this with owners. And before we let you go, Steve, tell folks that are listening how they could connect with you and just any final thoughts that you would give about decreasing that owner dependency.
Yeah, I think the best place to go is our website. We have contact us now buttons all over the place, denverbusinesscoach.com. Feel free to reach out to me directly to Steven at denverbusinesscoach.com. probably the best ways to get a hold of me are through there. And our website's full of really great information too about more ways to decrease dependency on the owner. But I think it comes back to looking at how you operate the business, what's in your head, get it out of your head, get the right people in the right places, executing the right process. And I think the mentality of continuous process improvement is really important when it comes to this, especially when you're starting out. No one's going to get it right the first time or even the 100th time. It's revisiting things and just continuously improving how things are operating, like you say, with automations, considering what parts of a process could be automated to make someone do their job more efficiently, more effectively. So you're always kind of thinking about this continuous process improvement. If you can do that with the right people in the right spots, it's a good recipe for scale.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again so much for joining us today. I know that there's so many great takeaways that Randy and I are going to go back and put in practice too. So thank you again, and we can't wait to have you on next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great.